Today, we're looking at a pink ink by Sailor, Mother Pink. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below where you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Now, you can follow me on Instagram as an ink guy, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, don't forget to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up the Parker Jotter with a medium nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have a standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, although I do use more papers, and those will show up later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial that looks something like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine is a little darker than the 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen. Almost no shading really. There is some spots. The T in the is a little lighter than the rest of the word. The K in quick is a little darker than the rest of the word. The Y in lazy, slightly lighter. There's spots, just not tons. 5 seconds to dry. Now medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium don't really show any color variation, although there are spots of it with the extra fine. Tomoe River. No bleeding, not too bad Tomoe River ghosting, but it's still quite a bit there. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a little darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 8 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine or the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 11 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a little darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading spots. T is lighter than the rest of the. Quick starts darker, gets lighter, and gets darker. Brown starts dark and gets light. Again with this the T is a little lighter than the rest of the word. So it's not too bad. 6 seconds to dry. The medium is by far darker than the extra fine, way darker than the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows plenty of color variation, and it is there here. It's nice here. The medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10-15 seconds. And to be honest, looking at this chromatography, I would expect an incredible amount of shading, and it didn't come through. It starts with a nice light purple on the bottom. It moves up into a pink, then we get an orange and a very, very light turquoise at the top. A very complex ink. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And had I not marked this as the one I let dry, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. It means I really don't expect much resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handled itself incredibly well. It seems unaffected for having been highlighted, so it's a good note-taking ink for those that like to go back and highlight their notes. Water is starting to reactivate and lift it. We do see a lot of the purple really hanging around there. It looks like the purple's really resisting against the water. Now, pen flush is breaking up all of those inks. We're starting to see the white of the paper come through. That's 30 seconds of pen flush sitting there, so I think given a little longer and a little elbow grease, that's all that you would need. The 1/3 bleach solution, even though you're not going to need it, it is completely obliterating this ink off the page. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link down below in a description or in a card. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Sailor's Mother Pink has a viscosity of 2.98, making this just a little bit drier than normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Sailor's Mother Pink has an average dry time of 8 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor's Mother Pink, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page, and I wanted a very nice blue with this. So I went with Colorverse Supernova. The second writing sample is done on P. Berger, black and red, and Vinta paper. Here we're looking at P. Berger. It's a student grade paper that is French ruled. Now, the medium, we get a whole bunch of bleed, a whole bunch of show through. The extra fine's not too bad, the stub's not too bad. But on the medium, I don't know that you could use the back of the page, but it doesn't touch the page underneath. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is just a smidgen darker. Barely darker, but just a smidgen darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Now medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine or the stub. It does have some feathering that's going on in quite a few spots. The K in quick. Where's it at? I know I had a couple of them. The bottom of the P in jumps. The beginnings of the B in brown. We do get a bunch of tiny little feathers all over, but it's really not bad. Just the fact that it's there. No spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 5 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both, the scrubby of the extra fine does show a tiny bit of color variation that we really don't get. The medium shows none, and we got none. Black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 4 seconds to dry. Medium is even darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us, well, it's much more on camera. The extra fine shows some color variation on camera, not in person. The medium showed me none. I got none in the writing samples. Last up is Vinta Notebooks, the Modern Traveler. Now, the medium gives slight bleed spots, slight ghosting, really not bad. Yeah, really not bad, especially for a pocket notebook that's not really made for fountain pens. So this is working very well here. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is just a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 3 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any color variation, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Sailor's Mother Pink? This puts down a very nice tone on the page. It's hard to get pinks right, and Sailor seems to be doing a very good job at it. It gives very nice shading when you choose the right pen to go with it, and this is really quite interesting. I seem to be finding more pink inks that are doing much better than I used to before. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? Now I found that my dry pens put down a very nice shading, but sometimes could be too light to comfortably read over a whole page. So I went with wetter pens, sacrificed the shading to get a nice, solid, constant pink tone. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I'm going to remind you to subscribe. Thanks for watching.